All the while your heart's on fire, keeping off to your own desire. Look at all you've endured, heartaches that have crushed your worth. All the while your mind's at war, you keep coming back for more.
Hello and welcome. I hope you're having a good day. I am very tired. I went out last night and got in at silly o'clock this morning, so I'm not on best form today, but still up, still trying to get as much done as I physically can, you know, planning out my week, getting all the horrible house chores done, you know, so things we've got to do. Right, now, when I first started doing all of this, many moons ago now, goodness gracious, it was a long time ago when I first set out and I filmed my first YouTube video, and I set up and built the website and thought about my company and all of that. I never wanted to be another standard YouTuber fitness person. Yeah, YouTube's never really been my ball game. It's I can edit, I can film, and I've always enjoyed doing things like that. However, when it comes to, putting out content regularly, that is something I struggle with. Not being behind the camera, not being behind the computer, just being different. Because, I mean, how many people are out there doing the whole fitness YouTuber sort of, I'm the best, look at me, I'm huge, blah, blah, blah sort of thing, right? I never wanted to do that. I've never seen myself as particularly self-absorbed. I'm not saying that people who do this are self-absorbed, but they are very much like, you know, people very much want the attention. They very much like the people coming up to them and like in the street and, you know, things like that. I've never wanted that. I've never wanted popularity or fame, nothing like that. What I've always wanted to do is do the things that people have helped me do. So make genuine changes in people's lives and, you know, come at things from a different angle that people would never expect that life could throw at them, if that makes sense. So, for example, when I was in hospital after my motorbike accident, I was in so much pain. I was struggling, thinking I was never going to walk again. And I actually remember being in hospital and being with the doctor, and the doctor saying, you're physically, from a physical hospital standpoint, there's nothing wrong with you. You know, and that was just like, oh my God. And that really opened up my eyes to the whole mental health side of things and how our minds and our bodies are connected on such a deeper level than we could ever possibly think about. So that's where I've always wanted to take this company. That's why I've spoken to therapists and counselors, and I've wanted to get them on board to be able to help me come at this whole fitness thing from a completely different angle. Okay, because fitness, as well, you guys have probably seen a lot on like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, that people are like, oh, I don't worry about my mental health, I just go to the gym and ignore it. And it's a bit like, that's exactly what I want to try and tackle, because yes, you can, that's a form of self-abuse or self-torture or self-harm in a way. Yes, I'm not saying it's bad. Obviously there is self-harm and there is self-punishment that we do to ourselves, like force feeding, anxiety, anorexia, physically hitting ourselves or cutting ourselves, denying ourselves certain things, privileges, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah. But that is another form of self-abuse. Okay, we're in the gym multiple times. Sometimes some people are multiple times a day, multiple times a week, abusing our bodies to the point where, you know, we're just like, oof, completely fucked, because that's how we get over things. And that's what I want to really try and target the most, I suppose, because the people who do that will have a lot more going on for them mentally than they probably care to admit. and probably even know themselves. I mean, I was one of these people for multiple years. I was in the gym, I was abusing myself 2 hours a day, fucking hard, restricting myself with calories, and that was, I didn't see anything wrong with that. Having stupid amount of caffeine a day. I mean, I still have a stupid amount of caffeine a day, my poor heart, but it's something that needs to be addressed, and I feel like no one's addressing it. Everyone's jumping on the trend and thinking it's cool, thinking, yeah, I've got something going on, so I'm going to go and abuse myself in the gym. Like, it's a very sheep following trend. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. And second someone starts doing it, everybody jumps on the bandwagon and just follows the herd. They don't think about what's best for themselves as an individual, generally speaking. I'm just classifying this as a general thing. I'm not attacking anybody. I don't want anybody to take any offense out of this. But we as a society look down on people who receive therapy and receive help and try and do things like that. And I don't understand why. Mental health, mental abuse has been something that's coming out a lot more recently, and I think that's something that needs to continue coming out. It doesn't need to, you shouldn't shoot someone in the foot for going and trying to better themselves and trying to go get therapy. It's a very male thing that it is oh, I don't need therapy, blah blah. I just get on with it and just move on and I just deal with my emotions. And it's yeah, but then a lot of the men who are like that turn out to be very what's the correct terminology that's not going to piss everyone off? Unknowledgeable. Should we go with unknowledgeable? Because they don't narrow-minded. That's the right word to use. Very narrow-minded. Blinkers on. They don't want to see past what they can't see past. They don't believe that there's something more out there with the whole mental health side of things. And this is very I've found so much resistance when I've been trying to tell people about this. So from what I went through, exactly the same. Being in a hospital, not being able to move, being told by the doctor that it's a mental health problem. And I was just how can I be in this much physical pain and it be a mental health problem? I was I'm in physical pain. Something going on with my body that you can fix because you're a doctor. And he was no, it's not. Because according to the x-rays, according to the CAT scans, according to everything, you're a perfectly healthy individual. There's nothing wrong. And so then, a year's worth of therapy later, I found out that it was my mind subconsciously almost causing me pain because it needed to release the trauma that was in my mind. Okay? Now that sentence has pissed off so many people that I know in the past because they don't want to think that something that happened to them many moons ago, many years ago, can affect them later in life. But this is it's been studied, it's been researched, it happens. It's called adverse childhood experiences, the ACE score. If you go and look at the ACE score online, ACE score, yeah, and it talks about a gentleman from before I was born. Before I was even born, this research was happening, right? And he was trying to help people lose weight, and he could not understand why once they lost the weight, they put it all back on and then some. And it wasn't just a rebound effect from having crash dieted, because he was a nutritionist or something. He was very good at what he did. He was at the very top of his field. And I feel like I should get the actual research up. Right, here we go. Right, so this is going to be coming in next video, or maybe not the next video, but a future video about my whole new coaching program. I've got all my training programs live online. You can go and we can work out a physical workout program for you. It's all very custom designed, nutritional program, blah, blah, blah. That's the basic stuff on a basic level. Anybody can write a training program, I think, these days. That's, You know, if you want, there's hundreds of people out there doing training programs, nutritional programs, you know, customized and stuff now. Mine is obviously extremely customized to each individual person. That is not what I'm trying to push with this company. It's there, I do it, because that's my background, that's my spec, that's what I've done, that's what I can do, it's very easy. Like I said, I'm pushing for this company is the whole mental health side of things. So, going back to the ACE study, right, the term adverse childhood experiences comes from the 1998, so the year I was born. ACE study is one of the largest investigations ever conducted to assess connections between chronic stress and the early adversity of long-term health. Okay? So chronic stress caused by early adversity and long-term health. Okay, so they literally got 17,000 people were asked about childhood experiences, adverse childhood experiences, negative childhood experiences, bad ones that happened in their childhood, obviously, trauma, whether it be mental or physical, sexual, or anything like that. People with adverse childhood experiences, so negative childhood experiences rather than positive childhood experiences, are 4 times more likely to be a high-risk drinker, okay, so an alcoholic. They're 6 times more likely to have an unintended teenage pregnancy. 6 times more likely to smoke. 6 times more likely to have underage sex. 11 times more likely to smoke cannabis. 14 times more likely to become a victim of violence. A victim of violence, not associate with violence, like not do violent acts, but become a victim of violence because they were a victim in the past. It's the whole victim mentality, unfortunately. But then they're 15 times more likely to actually commit an act of violence because they're so upset about what's happened to them, they don't want to then have that ever happen to them again. So then they go, it will happen one extreme to the other. From the experiences that I've had, people will either always be scared that they're going to have this happen to them and they'll never have the confidence to be able to, like, I don't want to say attack someone, but it's the whole thing of if you've like, because this was me, right? This was me. I had some bad things done to me when I was a child, and I personally have never had up until like the past 3 years where I've actually developed the self-confidence and the self-worth and, you know, to be able to fight for myself. I've never sort of stood up for myself. Does that make sense? So I would always run away from different experiences. And I always put that down to my parents always saying, it's not worth getting in a fight. If you are able to walk away, walk away. That's what I always put it down to. But actually, then looking back on things, I got that behavior from my mum because my mum went through very not nice things as well. She had adverse childhood experiences, and so that was her reaction. She wasn't a fighter. In terms of the nervous system, you've got your fight and your flight actions, and this happens as an automatic response to danger. Okay, some people will fight, some people will flight. They will just run away from the situation. My mum was that. That was then put onto me as a child, and that's what I did. I would fly from a situation, I would not fight from it. Now, different. Now that I understand what's happened, and I've gone through the subsequent therapies and exercises, mental exercises, physical exercises to better myself and to understand these things, to build myself up, I would fight in the situation, which I have done a couple of times. I wouldn't just run away from the situation. So there's that whole side of things. Okay? They're 16 times more likely to have used crack, heroin, or cocaine, so a Class A drug of some description. And they're 20 times more likely to have been sent to prison. Okay? Not saying that these things are directly linked to, just like you might know somebody who's, for example, been sent to prison or smokes cannabis and hasn't had an adverse childhood experiences, but the likelihood of them doing so is much higher. So if they were to take the ACE score, any of you are able to take the ACE score online and tot up your numbers and see where you rank, the likelihood of then you having, and remember, all of the questions asked on that score, I've done it, is about negative childhood experiences. So even if you score 1, you have had an adverse childhood experience, right? So, and I've never met anybody in my entire life that has scored 0. Ever. Okay, 0 is, wow. You had a perfect upbringing. Nobody's perfect, okay? These things happen in life, okay? And then subsequently, it's more likely to lead to something like this, okay? So I, for example, when I was much younger, didn't realise, and I had adverse childhood experiences, and I did lots of drugs. Okay, it happens. I don't do drugs anymore. Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. Okay, and it happens. It happens to us all. Okay, we all have some form, something that's happened. Okay. So yeah, children who experience poor quality of upbringings are more likely to adopt health-harming behaviours during adolescence and then subsequently will carry on through to their adult lives. Okay? Now, this document that I've written up for my clients that when they come and, so this is part of the coaching program that I'm doing that I'll be explaining in the next video. This is one of the documents that they will be receiving. It goes on to say about how these adverse childhood experiences will affect you negatively throughout your entire life if they're not addressed and can lead to serious health complications. This sentence is where I lose a lot of people, but some people say it's a conspiracy theory, some people say it's ridiculous, how can you possibly do that? But these adverse childhood experiences have scientifically been linked to serious diseases later in life, such as, the biggest one is, before I go on and say that, the biggest one is fibromyalgia. That's the one. That's the top medical condition that's been linked to adverse childhood experiences, and the untreating of those experiences then leads to fibromyalgia, which is just sort of constant. If you know what it is, then you know what it is. If you don't, Google it. I'm no doctor, so I'm just going to go from the people I've met who have it, have constant bodily pains 24/7. They really struggle to move. They struggle to do just daily activities because of the pain that they are in physically. Okay? Exactly the same what happened to me. If I had left it untreated, I might have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and then they say it's untreatable and it's incurable. However, there have been experiences and there have been cases that have been documented that people have come back from having these diseases and they have been absolutely fine once they have sorted out their negative childhood experiences in the past. Okay? Now, this is a very, very not talked about topic in life. People do not like to hear things like this because they're like, no, you're wrong. It's uncurable. I know that my so-and-so, my mum, my dad, my sister, my brother has been going through this for years and years and years, and the doctors have said that there's nothing they can do. And then if you go, for example, I'm not going to name call anybody, but I have a friend who has fibromyalgia and very against counselling and therapy, and just accepts that she is going to be in pain for the rest of her life. And I, over the course of a night, sat with her and just dropped in the ACE score just into a conversation. Not that I didn't say let's take the ACE score. I quite literally had it on my phone and I just asked her the questions from it. Maybe phrased it a little bit differently so it didn't seem a bit like weird. And she scored really high, really high. And then I tried for weeks and months to convince her to try and have some counselling and therapy and sort herself out. And then I tried to show her the studies that were done about fibromyalgia and how it's curable, and she wasn't having it. And that's the sort of, unfortunately, the culture that we've got today in our society. People are very blinkered. They believe everything they see on the news. They believe everything they hear on telly. And, if it isn't in a magic pill, they do not think it is fixable. Okay, now, believe me, going through therapy and all of this is hard. It takes a long time. But the way I've always looked at it is, you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life, or go through 2 or 3 years of a lot more pain. You have to think it gets worse before it gets better, but then it's better. It's better. You can walk around properly. You can not be in pain. You can not take shit tons of pills. You can go back to work. You can achieve everything you wanted to ever achieve in your life without having an anchor weighing you down. That to me is God's greatest gift. Why would you want? I'm not a God-fearing man, but why would you accept that has been put upon you? I think it was David Goggins no, it wasn't David Goggins. Was it David Goggins? Somebody broke both their legs and were told they were never going to walk again. I'm sure you've heard a story like this. Okay, there's been a lot out there. People have broken their legs. They have broken arms and shit like that, and they're told they're never going to do something again, never going to walk again, never going to be able to do certain activities again. And then they get up and they do those activities after a few years of rehabilitation and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, the mind is exactly the same. Okay, the mind is a muscle at the end of the day, and why would you not exercise that muscle in the correct fashion? Does that make sense? I hope this has made sense in some faction, because there's a lot of information out there. And this is where I'm going with my company. This is where I want to take it. This is the whole wall that I want to break down between mental health and physical pain, and sort of really get some research out there and sort of make it world renowned. However they have marketed this, saying you need to take pills and you need to spend money on these magic high dosage pharmaceuticals that will magically take the pain away, but then you get hooked on them and then you can't come off of them, and then you have bad withdrawals, and at the end of the day it's all a money-making scheme. Whereas if you go and get therapy and go and get help, then you will actually one day be free of the anchor that's weighing you down, and you'll be able to move on with your life and be able to do everything you wanted to do. And why is that not talked about more? Why is that not marketed more? It just blows my mind that it's not talked about more. But we're here, we're talking about it. I don't care how much hate I get for it, because it's fact. You can argue with me all you want. I might not know everything there is to know about the topic, but it's undeniable evidence out there that this is fact. So I know I'm preaching from a standpoint of, it's not accepted, but it's fact. End of discussion. But I hope that you took something away from this. I hope you sort of can understand why I am not just a normal personal trainer. I've been through some shit in my life. My family has been through some shit in our lives, and we're building, it's a family-run company, going to be built it from the ground up, and we are going to go and we're going to help as many people as we physically can achieve their best life, because it's a lot more simple than you think it is. I might have waffled a lot here, and I might have gone on and on, and it might seem a bit complicated, but it's not. It really, really isn't. I went from not being able to walk, from literally being in hospital, to I now can run. I now go on 5K runs every week, and I was going to do half marathon and all of that stuff in the space of 2 years. I now no longer get therapy, so I'm not fixed, because you don't go from point A to point B being fixed, but I am in the best physical standpoint that I could possibly be at this point in my life. And this is the same for you. You can be point A, being in bed, not knowing exactly what to do, where to go, how to do it, to where I am now, which is living your best life. So it can happen. It can happen. Please get in touch if you need any help, but if not, go and research it for yourself, and I promise you, you'll be surprised. Okay, have a fantastic day, and I shall see you next week.